Let's be honest, who hasn't daydreamed about it? You're digging through a dusty box in the attic or clearing out a forgotten corner of your grandmother's closet, and you find something. A weird painting, an old piece of jewelry, a stack of letters. You have that little flutter in your chest, that what-if moment. For most of us, it turns out to be just a weird and probably worthless painting. But for one woman who brought her family's keepsakes to the Antiques Roadshow, that what-if moment turned into a breathtaking, tear-filled reality. This isn't just a story about money, it's a story about validation, about a quiet act of preservation, and about how one person's trash can truly become a treasured link to history. The guest arrived at the show with a portfolio, a precious hand-me-down from her great-grandmother. This wasn't just any great-grandmother, though. She had been part of the magic of old Hollywood, working in the studios as a draper. Now, a draper isn't just someone who sews. A draper is an artist, a sculptor who works with fabric. She would have been the one to take a designer's flat, two-dimensional sketch and bring it to life, draping and pinning the fabric onto a mannequin, or the star herself, finding the perfect flow, the perfect line, the perfect way to capture the light and the character. She was an essential, unsung hero of the silver screen. And in the fast-paced, high-pressure world of the Hollywood Dream Factory, things moved quickly. Once a costume was made, the original design sketch, the piece of paper that started it all, was often considered disposable. Its job was done. Shockingly, many of these beautiful, hand-drawn designs were simply tossed out. But this guest's great-grandmother knew better. She had an eye. As the guest explained to the appraiser, her great-grandmother had a habit. When she really loved a design, or when she knew a dress was destined for a major star in a prominent film, she would quietly rescue the sketch from the studio trash. She saved them. She preserved them. She saw the art where others just saw a blueprint. Decades later, her great-granddaughter stood before expert Laura Woolley, holding the very art that was once destined for a dumpster. Woolley, with the knowing excitement that makes the show so captivating, laid out 3 of the sketches from the stack. "You brought a whole stack of these to the table," she began. "And I chose these 3 for a purpose. And the purpose I chose them for is because we have a bit of a good, better, best here." The air crackles in moments like these. The guest, likely just hoping for a sweet story and confirmation of her great-grandmother's connection to the stars, leaned in. First, the good. Woolley pointed to a stunning classic design. She identified it as being for a costume in the 1963 epic Cleopatra, starring the one and only Elizabeth Taylor. The room buzzed. Cleopatra. The scale, the glamour, the drama. However, Woolley noted it didn't have specific identifying marks linking it directly to Taylor. It was absolutely from the film, but it could have been worn by an extra. Still, this piece of cinematic history, once discarded, was given a solid valuation of $300 to $500. A wonderful start. The guest was already beaming. Then the better. The expert slid forward the second sketch. This one was different. The face drawn on it was unmistakable. "We can see her face very clearly," Woolley said, "and there's no doubt about it. This is Lucille Ball. America's fiery, hilarious, and brilliant sweetheart, a tangible connection to the Lucy." The expert admitted that they couldn't immediately identify which film this specific costume was for, but the likeness was so perfect, so undeniable, that its value shot up significantly. The appraisal? A very impressive $800 to $1,200. At this point, the guest's day is already made. Her great-grandmother's eye for talent was spot on. She had saved a piece of Elizabeth Taylor's world and a portrait of Lucille Ball. But Woolley wasn't finished. There was one sketch left. Finally, the best. This one, Woolley explained, was the crown jewel. She pointed to information on the back of the paper, the kind of smoking gun appraisers dream of. It wasn't just a sketch, it was a documented design. And it was for a woman who defined an entire era of glamour. Rita Hayworth. This single piece of paper, rescued from the floor of a costume shop, represented the magic of one of Hollywood's greatest love goddesses. Woolley looked at the guest, who was visibly holding her breath, and delivered the show-stopping valuation. Just that one sketch, on its own, it could fetch up to $5,000 at auction. The guest's reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming. Her hands flew to her face. The shock, the joy, the sheer disbelief. It all came pouring out. For studio trash? Wow, she stammered, her voice thick with emotion. Who'da thought? Certainly not me.